The Bernie Sanders movement scared them poopless, all right? It did. I mean, there was a run on pitchforks during the last election. It's the closest a self-proclaimed democratic socialist has ever gotten to the White House.
Now to an astonishing groundswell of hipster support tonight in New York City for presidential candidate Bernie Sanders.
Tonight in the heart of Greenwich Village,
there are a lot of people here tonight.
Bernie Palooza. More than 500,000 college students live in New York City alone. Tonight, about 27,000 Sanders supporters packed Washington Square Park, one of Sanders' biggest crowds yet. Tonight's rally, a star-studded affair.
Oh, man, it's amazing to be in Washington Square Park.
I'm the designated hype man, Bernie Sanders.
Like a rock concert. A stark contrast to the scene up in the Bronx, where Hillary Clinton had her own rally tonight.
MSNBC did something pretty crazy the other day. They finally revealed their true colors. The truth about their efforts to manipulate this election for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders. That truth, that reality, accidentally sprayed out of Chris Matthews' out-of-control face holes.
I'm told by the experts on numbers around here at NBC and elsewhere that come June 7th, the day of the California primary, which your candidate, I totally understand, wants to get to and maybe have a chance of knocking off Hillary at that event, a big last hurrah, that at 8 o'clock that night Eastern time, the networks will be prepared, including this one, to announce that Hillary Clinton has now gotten over the top, that she will have won the nomination in numbers. It's done. What will that do to turnout if that's 5 o'clock Pacific time with 3 more hours to vote in California? Who will be least likely to vote? Sanders people from 5 to 8 people or Hillary? I've heard both theories.
First of all, by even asking this question in this way, by phrasing it like this, Matthews is hoping to suppress voting. He is saying, we already know it's over. We're going to announce it's over. Don't vote. All right. Number 2, he's admitting that MSNBC plans to fraudulently declare a winner. Hillary Clinton absolutely will not be the winner on June 7th because superdelegates don't vote until the convention. You got it, Chris? You get it? So unless Bernie Sanders disappears because he got back into his time machine and returned to whichever future civilization sent him here to try desperately to save us from a well, unless that happens, Hillary will not get the nomination on June 7th. 3, Matthews is also admitting that MSNBC's announcement will likely influence the vote in California. He's saying, hey, Jeff, so we're gonna in California. How you feel about that? Is that cool? Not cool? And Bernie's campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, then tried to explain to Matthews that he has the mental capacity of beef jerky. And that superdelegates are not counted yet.
All we have from superdelegates is essentially a poll. You aren't allocating delegates based on a poll in California, but you are allocating delegates based on a poll of superdelegates.
Jeff, okay, I don't want to have this conversation.
No. Why would you? Why would you? I'm going to show you mind-blowing video of how the voting machines were rigged in Chicago and possibly many other cities. And I realize this is like the 3rd show recently where I've talked about how the primaries are being stolen, but this is the theft of our democracy. But this week I have video from the Chicago Board of Elections that brings into question everything we've seen in these primaries. In Illinois, it's mandatory that they recheck 5% of the vote to see if the machines are operating correctly. And people can go and witness this audit. They can watch as the machines are tested. And you know, Saturday Night Free, do you go to the UFC fight or voting machine audit? So here is what those witnesses saw.
Essentially, in the audit, they were erasing votes that the electronic voting machine paper record indicated had been cast.
So the hand tally showed that Bernie Sanders had gotten 223 votes and that Hillary Clinton had gotten 46 less votes. The hand tally showed that. Okay. But to meet the official recommended results, they had to literally erase Bernie Sanders' votes and add Hillary Clinton's. That's approximately 70 votes, 70 times about 500 active machines in the field, and there's more that we have documented here. It is a lot of votes.
What they're describing is election fraud. Person after person walked up to that podium and said the machines got the votes wrong, and the auditors covered it up. And I'm sure the Chicago Board of Elections officials and the people at those little tables were horrified at what they heard.
Now, that's not really the way we do an audit. I don't think that that's really a credible way of believing that we've got a fair tally.
Can I just ask you, because have you done audits before, or are you just running audits?
I participated in other elections. I have not done audits before, but I have a background in political science.
Okay, because you were saying that this isn't the way to do an audit, and I just didn't know whether you had any experience previously.
You lady! No, she's not a trained auditor, but you don't have to be to know the numbers shouldn't be changed to match what the stupid machines say. I'm not a basketball player, but I know when I see a basketball game, okay? If I saw two people rubbing their faces in a bowl of clam chowder and I said, that's not a basketball game, would you respond, are you a professional NBA ref? Then shut up. Hello. I'm your host, Lee Camp. This is Redacted Tonight. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, the slow strangulation of our democracy. Well, right now we're at the point where democracy is like almost out of air. You know, it's like, So we're at that point. So this is where the story starts to get a little weird. It has to do with the Washington Post attacking me and Tim Robbins. I'm not kidding. But we'll get back to that in a minute. So in order to prove election fraud goes beyond Chicago, we need some way to show that the people are voting in a manner that is different than what's being reported. Exit polls. The exit poll company Edison Research, which does all our primaries, tells us that the margin of error for a 95% confidence interval is plus or minus 4%. So let's see if any of the primary states in the Sanders-Clinton race varied more than 4%. Because if they do, something is very wrong. Let's see. Arkansas varied 6.7%. Alabama, 15.7%. Tennessee, 8.8%. Georgia, 12.4%. Texas, 9.9%. Massachusetts, 7.8%. Oklahoma, 6.8%. Mississippi, 10.4%. Ohio, 10%. And New York, 12%. Did a blind monkey with an abacus run this election? So what does this mean? I'm told by mathy nerdy people that the odds of that many states exit polls skewing toward Bernie before the vote goes to Hillary by chance is 1 in 25,000. And if the states that voted last Tuesday also skewed in Bernie's favor, then the odds of that happening are 1 in 182,000. And the odds of New York having exit polls that are 12% off is 1 in 126,000. This past weekend, something pretty fascinating happened. Hundreds upon hundreds of people showed up at CNN headquarters in Los Angeles and demanded CNN start covering Bernie Sanders. Because they did. They showed up. It was about 1,000. But here's the reason that this is amazing. Because all of those people that spontaneously showed up, they're just like you and me. They have lives to tend to. They have stuff to deal with. And they still came and took 4 or 8 hours or more to protest outside CNN. They all have jobs to do. They have papers to write and lawns to mow and children to leave in the car with their windows cracked a little bit, or whatever you do with kids when you don't want them. These protesters all have lives and don't want to spend their day trying desperately to get our news media to do their job. Just do your job, please.
Do your job. CNN, do your job. CNN is basically brainwashing people by covering Hillary and Donald Trump and ignoring Bernie Sanders.
But they came out anyway because it's gotten to a breaking point. The nation's most trusted name in news is literally covering how someone's ponytail obscured a TV on a plane. That's what CNN's official Twitter account was posting at the same time there were 1,000 people outside their front door. First of all, if someone puts their ponytail in front of your TV, don't you just yank the ponytail? I mean, that problem comes with its own emergency cord to fix the problem. Don't just stick your gum in the ponytail or something. There's a lot of easy answers, is all I'm saying. And secondly, if that ponytail was blocking CNN on the TV, you weren't missing anything. Anything. They were literally reporting on how someone created a bedroom in a Shark Tank. I don't know what to do with that information. How do I use the meaning that is oozing out of your network? How do I process? Honey, come quick! There's a bedroom in a Shark Tank! Get ready! Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd? But in order to show she did it to help Hillary Clinton, we'd have to show she's had some kind of contact with Clinton or Clinton supporters, and that just isn't good. Oh, what's this on this newspaper from 2014 that I always keep by my desk? What? I like my newspapers old and wrinkly, like my men. I don't know what that meant. In September of 2014, the Wall Street Journal wrote about a dilapidated Upper West Side brownstone that was sold to a developer. The place's floors had collapsed and stonework cracked. Over the years, neighbors complained about graffiti, garbage, and rats. One neighbor even put up a rat crossing sign. Anyway, this place is a dump. Nobody would ever buy. Oh. The property sold for $6.6 million, $1.1 million over the 2013 market value. Isn't that odd? The owner of the home is one Diane Hazlett Rudiano, who paid $5,000 for it in 1976. That's the same name as that other person. That is odd. She wasn't even trying to sell the place. She was just approached by a buyer offering $6.5 million. Maybe the buyer was a rat collector. Who knows? But alas, this still has nothing to do with the Clinton campaign. Oh, wait. The buyer of the property was an investment group headed by Dana Lowy Lutway, daughter of U.S. Representative Nita Lowy, a superdelegate for one Hillary. Isn't that odd? It says here in this newspaper, which has now switched from the Wall Street Journal to the Daily News, that that when they asked Lowey's chief of staff whether there was any potential situation at all in which Nita Lowey would switch her support from Clinton to Sanders, her chief of staff replied, absolutely not. None at all? None at all? Like Hillary could walk up on the podium with a pig's head on a necklace, like a Flavor Flav clock, and Lowey would still be down for that? Isn't that? So the Board of Elections chief clerk accidentally deletes 120,000 voters in a major primary 18 months after selling a completely destroyed house where bedbugs go to plan their revolution, selling it for $6.6 million to the daughter of a die-hard Clinton supporter. Color me pink and tickle me stupid. That is hotter than a snowstorm in July. That is hotter than a porcupine with a balloon. That is hotter than a porn star at a debutante ball. That is hotter than Shia LaBeouf acting not odd. That is hotter than a river otter. That's all I got. That's all I got. Look, I'm sure this is all on the up and up. The Clintons would never be involved in something scandalous. And I'm sure there was some kind, if there was some kind of conspiracy, the mainstream media would be all over it. Just like they were all over donating to the Clinton Foundation, including NBC, News Corp, which owns Fox News, Turner Broadcasting, which owns CNN, and Reuters. But they didn't donate for any, payback. They donated because they genuinely care whether.
So guess what? There's a book out right now called Shattered. And it's about the Hillary Clinton campaign, and it's by two insiders. And here's where the Russia stuff comes from. So this is from that book. It says, the strategy had been set within 24 hours of her concession speech. Robbie Mook and John Podesta assembled her communications team at the Brooklyn headquarters to engineer the case that the election was entirely on the up and up.
No way.
For a couple of hours, with Shake Shack containers littering the room, they went over the script they would pitch to the press and the public. Already, Russian hacking was the centerpiece of the argument. Wow. So that's John Podesta, who would rather start World War III than admit he ran a campaign. And they got Shake Shacks.
You know what is so beautiful about Hillary Clinton going down in flames is that we didn't even have to release information that wasn't true.
Wow.
God bless Debbie Washington Schultz.
So get this, I was looking through WikiLeaks, and I found this thing from a guy named Peter Brodnitz. So he was a consultant, Top Line Results or whatever. So they did a poll, and he did research for the Hillary Clinton campaign. This is back in 2015. And so he submitted all this data. So they did all this research on people, and they did data. And you see that red line? It's going down to this little thing here. And what does that say? I'll tell you what, this is an internal document from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And wait till you hear what that says. That little section there says, Secretary Clinton's top vulnerability tested in this poll is the attack that claims as Secretary of State, she signed off on a deal that gave the Russian government control of 20% of America's uranium production after investors in the deal donated over $140 frickin' million to the Clinton Foundation. Her own internal document said that's her number one frickin' vulnerability, and it said half of all likely voters are less likely to support Clinton after hearing that statement, and 17% are much less likely to support her after that statement. After voters heard a battery of negatives on Secretary Clinton, their top concern was that she does not seem honest. That's where that rush comes from. Because it was her vulnerability. And what do all frickin' crazy right-wingers do? They do before you can accuse them of it. And that's where this Russian, because they did a deal for plutonium, and the Kremlin Associated Bank gave Bill Clinton $500,000. They gave the Clinton Foundation over 140. This is unbelievable, and no one talks about this. You turn on MSNBC, CNN, they will never tell you about this. Did you know about that, Ro?
I read about it.
You read about it.
Not in that detail.
No.